दे दी हमें आजादी बिना खड़क बिना ढाल, साबरमती के संग तूने कर दिया कमाल। आंधी में भी जलती रही गांधी तेरी मशाल, साबरमती के संग तूने कर दिया कमाल। Dear members and guests, brothers and sisters, exactly today, 151 years ago, a great event took place in the history of mankind. A Mahatma was born, named Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, respectfully called Bapu by all, was the architect of India's independence. He taught us ahimsa parmo dharam. Truth is better than violence, and non-violent is the best of religion. He taught us to respect all the religions. He taught us about dignity of labor, respect, equality. He also taught us how to be fearless in the event of and when faced with adversary, no matter how strong is the adversary. We have grown up learning all this, and today we celebrate his 151st birth anniversary of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, our Bapu. We pay our respects and offer prayers on this day and remember his teachings. Today is also ex-Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri's birthday. We pay our prayers and pay our respects and homage to him as well. Today is a great day. We'll be hearing from none other than the great grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, Shri Tushar Gandhi. He will be here to speak about life and teachings from the lenses of the great grandson. With this, I invite our chairman who will be speaking after the ambassador's address. Thank you.
Namaste and greetings to all of you on the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Here at the Embassy of India in UAE, we have been commemorating Gandhiji's anniversary since October 2, 2018, which started with the display of Gandhiji's image, his text and photographs and videos on the iconic Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which was followed the same evening by an excellent lecture on Gandhiji by His Excellency Sheikh Nayan bin Mubarak Al Nayan, the Minister for Tolerance and Coexistence in the UAE. Subsequently, we've had the launch of the Gandhi Zayed Digital Museum, again here in Abu Dhabi, which was also addressed by Her Excellency Noor Al-Kabi, the Minister of Culture. We then had the occasion to organize a fashion show on Khadi, the fabric which was most favored by Gandhiji. Here we were able to draw in prominent designers from the Emirates as well as from India, and to showcase how Khadi can be used not just as a fabric for Indian clothes, but also for the abaya, the dress or the gown worn by Emirati ladies. Subsequently, we've even had the occasion to install a bust of Gandhiji within the premises of the Indian Embassy. This was fortunately done on August 15th, 2019, in the presence of a large number of our members of the community. Of course, we were also wanting to have some bhajans of Gandhiji being performed, and like in many parts of the world, we were also able to get a famous Emirati singer, Yasir Habib, who performed the Vaishnav Janato Bhajan, again a favorite of Gandhiji, and this was also performed during a visit and interaction that our then Foreign Minister, the late Sushma Swaraj, had with the Indian community back in 2019. In August 2019, we were also very pleased when Emirates Post decided to launch a special commemorative stamp for Gandhiji during the visit of our Prime Minister to the UAE. This was done in the presence of not only Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. And just a few days ago, we were also very happy to organize a Gandhi Katha by Dr. Shobna Radhakrishna. This was a wonderful way of getting across Gandhiji's teachings to school students and also to members of the Indian community. So today is the culmination of all these events, and we have several events at the embassy also, although again in a virtual format. So I'm unable to join you live today, but I wish you an excellent event today, especially the keynote address by Shri Tushar Gandhi. Namaste.
Distinguished guests and dear members, as we celebrate and commemorate yet another year of Gandhi Jayanthi and Shastri Jayanthi as well, both the Shastri Jayanthi as well, many have dedicated this day indifferently. India, for instance, for many years, the government of India has, with international cooperation and through the United Nations, treated it as a day of non-violence. It's regarded as such across many countries. The Indian Consul General in Dubai and Northern Emirates interestingly called it as a day for introspection, quite rightly. And therefore, IBPC for some years have been regarding it as a day for community social responsibility and re-emphasizing something that the Mahatma stood for through his life. And I think that's an aspect that endears him to one and all throughout the country and throughout the world, indeed. So it's appropriate that we get to hear today from the great grandson. But Shri Tushar Gandhi is not just reflected glory, as a great grandson, but in his own right, he is an activist, a social activist, a person who has done tremendously good work, albeit sometimes below the radar screen. And we'd like to hear from him as we commemorate yet another Gandhi Jayanti. So over to Shri Tusharji. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, and all the members and office bearers of IBPC, and greetings to everyone who is present in this meeting. It is indeed a very great pleasure and privilege for me to commemorate both Shastriji and Bapu's birth anniversary today. I bow my head to both the great stalwarts India produced. The common thread between the two was that even Bapu considered the farmer to be the soul of India. And in India, the first two mass movements that he led were for the benefit of the farmers in India. And Shastriji, of course, gave us the slogan of Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. And so both the great stalwarts of India had a lot of common in them. And so it is only very fitting that their birth anniversaries are also the same, and we get the opportunity to commemorate both and pay our homage to both. And I have always believed that there cannot be any hierarchies in that, and there shouldn't be any hierarchies in that. They are both equally important people, both sacrificed their lives in the service of the poorest of the poor and the weakest of the weak of this our nation. And, so it's very fitting, and I personally pay my personal homage to my ancestor as well as somebody that I've always admired and looked up to. So today you have requested me to speak as a great grandson and talk to you about my experiences of Bapu. But I think it is very essential that we also understand how many people keep saying that Bapu is eternal and he's always relevant. But unless we provide specific instances of the relevance in that particular time period, it really doesn't matter, because then it's merely words and it doesn't amount to anything. So अगर किसी की हमें सार्थकता समझानी है, तो उस समय के उपलक्ष्य में उनकी सार्थकता के बारे में अगर हम बात करें, तो ही उसका महत्व और मतलब लोगों के लिए होता है. तो this is what I would like to emphasize my talk on, and try to emphasize how important Gandhi becomes and the Gandhian ideology becomes in our present time. I might disappoint a lot of you because I don't call Bapu a Mahatma. I refuse to use that term for him, because I believe that making him a Mahatma was an excuse that we created, so that we did not have to try to become like him, because then we could convince ourselves that he was a Mahatma, so he could do all those great things. We are just mere mortal human beings, and so it is impossible for us to be like him. And that is the greatest disservice that we do to Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. And so I always only refer to him as Bapu, and as far as possible, I express my opposition to that term Mahatma, because I believe that Gandhi is within all of us. And if we allow that Gandhi to become dominant, it will not harm us in any ways. It will just make us much better human beings. And that is why I attempt to humanize him, so that we can see a part of him within our own selves, and then make that part become dominant in us. So let us talk about how Gandhi is relevant and how he would have dealt with in this situation that we see ourselves in, and which is pretty intimidating for all of us, because all of a sudden we have had to embrace a lifestyle that we had never ever thought that we would have to live with, isolating ourselves, social distancing, and all those concerns that we have that have forced us for the past at least 6 to 7 months to live accordingly. It's also very traumatizing. In a few years down the line, when there is enough time for sociologists and psychiatrists to study the effects of the isolation forced by corona on society and individuals, I'm sure we will have another new mental health issue which will be specific to the cause of the pandemic of corona. And we must also start recognizing that right now in our life, in our present, so that as far as possible we can cope with that. And there, I think Gandhi provides us with some kind of a hope, a ray of hope from his own lifetimes. Because if you look at Bapu's life and his times, in his lifetime he lived through many epidemics and an equally terrorizing pandemic called the Spanish flu. And so this is not a new experience. Even in that time, these kind of situations mankind had to deal with and respond to. And at that time, we all did that. We managed to he managed to survive, and not just survived, he thrived. And the way he thrived on it was, one, being responsible, two, being cautious, and three, by serving where it was required the most. And these are the three lessons that if we learn also, it will help us in this time. We all feel very oppressed by the kind of situation that we are in. All technology helps us to connect and communicate with each other. But this is not a very healthy form of communications, because there is no human interaction in this at all. It is technology related. Of course, in this period, I have spoken to audiences from across the globe, which I would not have ever been able to do if it was in the normal life that we used to live in. Technology has helped me to reach across the globe and audiences from across the globe to hear to my talks. But there is no sense, because communication happens with all our senses, visually, with our ears, with touch, feel, even with smell. We communicate with each other and identify things and each other. And technology, no matter how advanced it gets, it will never be able to provide those kind of experiences. And so I am, for myself, I'm looking forward to eagerly awaiting when we can become normal again. But talking about Bapu and his times, when he was in South Africa, when he was in England, when he was in India, back again, many a times there were outbreaks of epidemics in all three places. And at all times, he did not make an excuse that I am not a doctor, so it's not my responsibility to do anything. I just have to safeguard myself. The doctors and medical staff will do whatever they can or have to. It's their responsibility. No, he formed bands of volunteers and went into the most afflicted situations and became the first rank of responders, providing relief to the afflicted people and also doing his duty in other fields of cleaning up the places, because he realized that the epidemics were born out of the filth in our surroundings and was being helped in spread because we kept our surroundings in a very unhygienic way. So he would clean up the localities, clean up the homes. He would clean the patients who were invalid because of the infections. And he would not only stop at that, he would nurse them, give medical aid to them, whatever the doctors told them. He and his volunteers would perform those duties. And for the dead also. He realized that if the dead were not attended to, the possibility of the epidemic spreading was much greater, and maybe new epidemics being born out of it will become much greater. And so he also, with a lot of dignity and honor, disposed of the dead who were victims of that pandemic. And so he performed all the duties that he could possibly do in his own capacity. And this is what, if we also make this as a responsibility to the time and the situation, then we will not have a reason, or then we will have a valid reason to criticize the shortcomings and failure of the administration, if there are any shortcomings and failures. But merely not doing anything and then saying that the administration is falling short of providing relief and remedy for this is not an acceptable way for a citizen of a democracy or a citizen of any country to behave. Because when we become citizens or residents of a particular country, then we have a responsibility to the well-being of that country or our own nation of which we are citizens. And then we must also perform that duty if we expect rights from that nation or that country. This is our democratic duty, and we must, in every circumstances, we must do it. Gandhi not only performed his duties at the times of epidemics, but when there were crises, like man-made crises of war and strife in South Africa, he volunteered to provide relief even in the theater of war by going right into the war front while the war was being fought and providing relief to wounded soldiers while bullets were flying across and bombs were exploding all over. In South Africa, in the Boer War, he formed the Indian Stretcher Bearer Corps, and and in the Zulu uprising, he formed the Indian Ambulance Corps. And there too, selflessly, he served all those who needed health and care. And the uniqueness in that was that although he went into most the conflicts on the side of the British, but at the battlefront, he was on the side of humanity. So in the Boer War, he and his people tended not only to the wounded British soldiers, but all the wounded, even the wounded soldiers of the Dutch army were given aid and were evacuated by him and his band of stretcher. Whereas in the Zulu uprising, him and his band of ambulance corps people provided help to the wounded Zulus and the displaced Zulus and gave them relief and nursed them back to health also. So he did not remain partisan in his service to people. This is what we must understand and learn. While he lived, he was in prison many times, and for him at that time, being in prison was like the social isolation that we are forced to practice today. And it becomes very oppressive to us, for us. But he utilized that time to audit his own life till that moment, search for his mistakes and atone for them, and equip himself so that he would never again commit those mistakes in his life. He used that period to become productive. So all the time that he was in prison, he was spinning his charkha and producing khadi for himself and everybody else. So he was productive when he was idle, but he was forced not to be in communication or contact with anybody else. And then he also wrote in that time, and some of his best writings happened while he was in prison, and that is where Bapu always called his prisons as Mandir. If you look at the correspondence that he wrote while he was in prison in Yarwada jail, his address never mentioned Yarwada as a jail. He referred to Yarwada as Yarwada Mandir and his prison sentence as a tapashcharya. And if all of us treat this forced isolation and insulation that we are forced to live with today, this social distancing that we are forced to live with, as a penance and a tapashcharya, then we will not find it a burden. We will not find it as a punishment to us, but we will look at it as a boon to be utilized in a productive manner for as a time period to better ourselves than what we were before. Because remember one thing, there have been many pandemics and epidemics before this COVID pandemic and epidemic, and humankind, no matter what cost they've had to pay, has always triumphed over those ailments and those pandemics. And COVID is not going to be any different. We are going to triumph over it. One day we will conquer COVID, and one day, friends will talk amongst themselves, and someone will say, "यार कल थोड़ा COVID हो गया मुझे, तो दवाई ले ली, अब ठीक हूँ, बस काम पे लग जाऊंगा कल से." And it's going to happen. It has happened in the past. It's going to happen again. What we should be concerned about is how will we be in the post-COVID era? Those of us who survive, how will we be in the post-COVID era? Will we be the same? Will we be worse than what we were? Or will we become better than what we were? And all three possibilities are dependent on how we spend and treat this time itself. This is what I think would be the real commemoration of Gandhi and the utilization of our time in the spirit of Gandhi. His whole life, Gandhi fought against the system of caste hierarchies. And he believed that that was the greatest sin that we practice in our society. And so he found ideas to destroy those caste prejudices and hierarchies in his lifetime. And one of the things that he did, and you must, why I'm saying this is because I want to show you how he mixed all his objectives into all his methods, and nothing was. He never said, "Okay, Satyagraha is going to be political for the independence of India, so I will only concentrate on that. Social reform will be something totally different. So when the time comes, I'll do that." And Rachnatmak Karya, the productive work, is the third thing. So when that kind of time comes, we'll do productive work. No, for him, everything was simultaneous. So while they were fighting for Swaraj, he was also inspiring social change, and he was also insisting on productive work, all three at the same time. So when he launched satyagrahas and the satyagrahis were arrested by the British and imprisoned, he had this system that he had promised his satyagrahis to perform. In the British era, when people were arrested and taken to the prison, every day the jailer would come and line up all the new prisoners and ask them to tell him their jat, their caste. And then whoever he realized was of the lowest caste amongst the group of prisoners, for to them he would assign the work of cleaning the prison toilets. And that time, prison toilets used to be buckets kept in the cells of the prisoners. So the buckets had to be carried out and emptied and cleaned and brought back again. And that enforced the caste system, because since it was made to be done by the lowest of the castes amongst the prisoners, the hierarchy was maintained. So Gandhi made his satyagrahis promise him that when they were arrested and when the jailer asked them about their castes, they would voluntarily not tell him their caste, and whoever was of the highest caste amongst that group of prisoners would volunteer to clean the toilets, thus demolishing the caste system, the caste hierarchies, and the caste prejudices. And Mahadev Desai, who was like his son and his secretary for 25 years, he volunteered because he was a very high caste, even amongst the Brahmins, he was of a very high hierarchy amongst the Brahmins. And so he used to joke with Bapu. He said, "Bapu, you have done a great अन्याय मेरे साथ आपने कर दिया है, क्योंकि हमेशा जब भी सबके साथ पकड़ा जाता हूँ, whenever I am arrested with all the others, I am always of the highest caste amongst all of them. And so, as my promise to you, I always clean the toilets in the prison." So he says, this is not just behavior. This was fun, but remember this thing, that it instilled the belief of dignity of labor, that no work is below our status. We don't need to treat work as a hierarchy, that this is a work of a higher level and this is a work of the lower level. In the offices and organizations also, we only realize the importance of those who serve us in the menial tasks in our office when they are not there. And suddenly when you ask, भाई चाय ले आओ, और पता चलता है कि आज तो कोई है नहीं, तो हमें उठ के चाय लेनी पड़ेगी, तब हमें उस इंसान की अहमियत का एहसास होता है कि जो चाय लाके हमें दे देता है। वो जब लाता है तो हमें उसकी अहमियत नहीं होती, हम उसको डांटते हैं, क्यों भाई इतनी देर क्यों कर दी, मैं कब से बुला रहा हूँ। पर उस चाय देने वाले की भी अहमियत होती है, क्योंकि वो आपको चाय दे रहा है, इसलिए आप अपना बैठा बैठे काम ठीक से कर सकते हो, वरना जिस दिन वो नहीं होता उस दिन आपके लिए बहाना भी बन जाता है, आज नहीं हो पाया क्योंकि यार चाय लेने को भी मुझे ही जाना पड़ रहा था हमेशा। तब जाके हमें उनकी अहमियत की का एहसास होता है। And this is what Bapu meant to make us understand of the dignity of labor, of the importance of any given task. And that is why when he gave a talisman to the government of India, the first government of India, the ministers, who was sworn in as the interim government of India even before independence, When they asked him if he had a message for them, he told them that my message to you is whenever you think of doing something, put yourself to a test. Imagine the face of the poorest of the poor and the weakest of weak person that you have ever come across. And then ask yourself a question whether what you want to do or what you intend to do is going to make any difference to the circumstances of that person. Is it going to empower that person? Is it going to enable that person to become better than what he or she was before what you did? And say, give yourself an honest answer. If the answer is yes, then realize that what you intend to do is significant. If the answer is no, then tell yourself that you only intended to do it for the sake of your own ego and to convince yourself that you had done something good, but it amounted to nothing. If we make that our ideology, I think we would have served the Gandhian ideology in the best of our abilities. I'm sorry I can't spend more time to you because of some mistake on my part. Will have to leave soon. So thank you very much to all of you and the office bearers and hosts of this program, office bearers of IBPC Dubai, the embassy of the Emirates and the consulate, and all of you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you on this occasion of Shastri Jayanti and Gandhi Jayanti. My best wishes and greetings to all of you. Thank you very much.
You are most welcome, sir. It was really a prideful moment for all of us that we are talking the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi from a great leader, from the famous journalist, and particularly the great grandson of the father of nation. I can say that way. We were, yes, there is a time constraint. The way you have summarized the three mantras of Gandhi's ideology in the present situation, and categorically that how can we adopt that in the post-COVID world. Yes, it is a new learning. Definitely, you have summarized a different vision altogether, which has not been known. On this occasion, I will like to please permit me to say some poetic words in your honor. That तुषार भाई स्वागत है, अभिनंदन स्वीकार करें. तुषार भाई स्वागत, अभिनंदन स्वीकार करो. स्वदेश के स्वभाव का सम्मान भव्य आज करो. स्वदेश के स्वभाव का सम्मान भव्य आज करो. प्रपौत्र हो महात्मा के, प्रपौत्र हो महात्मा के, अहिंसा के रक्त वंश. प्रपौत्र हो महात्मा के, अहिंसा के रक्त वंश. राष्ट्रपिता मोहन के मंत्र आत्मसात करो कि प्रहार का विकार भी कभी आए ना मनस्थिति में. सत्य संकल्प के विकल्प सफल आज करो. तुषार गांधी स्वागत, अभिनंदन स्वीकार करो. तो आपका बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन है. If you allow another 5 minutes, I will put up few of the queries or the jigyasa, we can say, from the audience, what we have received, because you have been such a personality who have been famous for your book that Let's Kill Gandhi. So what has been the emotion behind this title, or what has been the particular things? Because we know that many of the things you brought up in that book when you authored that book and they titled you, many of the things which are not commonly known to the public. So will you like to highlight few of the things and category the emotion behind this title, that Let's Kill Gandhi?
I am Banya. So making money is something that I cherish. And so I wanted my book to make some money for me. And I did an experiment while I was writing the book, because when I was writing the book, the working title of my book was Murder of a Mahatma. And then I started feeling, because generally what happens with Bapu's books is they go onto the shelves very fast, but they don't go off the shelves that fast. Because there's so many books that there is a fatigue that happens. And I didn't want my book to suffer from that. So at that time, I used to have an office of my own. The Gandhi Foundation used to have an office from which we were functioning. So one day while I was researching for my book, I came across that there was a report about the conspirators meeting, and there was a remark over there that most probably the murder was planned in that meeting. And so I thought to myself that if they planned the murder in that meeting, then someone must have told the other, let's kill Gandhi, because that idea had to be sounded out. And so it struck to me. I said, this is because my book is all about the conspiracy and the murder and the investigations and the trial and the inquiry commissions and all that. So I said, why not? Why shouldn't I book that title? But that title was obnoxious. I agreed that it was a very obnoxious title. And so I carried on an experiment. I created two covers. One which said murder of Mahatma and the other which said let's kill Gandhi. And I put both the graphics on the table in the reception area of my office, where all the guests to the office would first get in and they spend some time. And the result of that experiment was that 9 out of 10 people who came to that office picked up the page which said let's kill Gandhi, and only one person out of the 10 picked up the page that said murder of the Mahatma. And I told myself, if this is so powerful, then if my book title is Let's Kill Gandhi and it's on the bookshelf, I will have 9 customers buying my book. And so, like a shrewd banya, I picked that title and it served my objective very handsomely, that even so many years now after it was first published this year, an updated, edited, new print is going to happen, because both the publishers have run out of copies and they want to publish reprint that book. And so I think that that is the success. The passion behind the publishing the book was because there has been a lot of campaign of lies to justify Bapu's murder. And growing up, I used to feel very offended by those lies, because on the other hand, in the family, I used to hear the true stories about how that murder happened, why that murder. So when I became capable, I decided that I was going to research that topic. And for 5 years, I did research on that topic. I gathered documents from all around. And my book is a result of that research.
Yeah, it's a very easiest way you have replied to the question. Yes, we respect that. Secondly, you have been contributing for the Bollywood movies when Kamal Hassan came up, that Hey Ram, or the Road to Sabarmati. Do you think the ideology, the way you presented today in a different situation, that the movies, there should be a second version of that now, so that the real personality traits and the characters can be brought in the present situation? What is your thought behind that? How do you think?
If new movie is to be made on Gandhi, then the best thing to do is to make a movie on Mohandas Karamchand. What I said was that if a new movie is to be made, then I think it would be appropriate if a movie is made on the individual Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi and not on Mahatma Gandhi, because I believe that human being, the human Mohan, is much more to inspire the coming generations, because the Mahatma will always intimidate people. And so, if there is at all a new movie to be made, it should be made on the human being, the story of the human being. And because you referred to my acting stints, they were blink and miss roles in those films because uh, both the directors of those films, Kamal Hassan ji and my friend Amit, who made Road to Sangam, came to me and said that your character is going to be in our film for some time, and will you play that character? Being starstruck and the glamour of Hollywood, Hindi film industry and all that, I could never resist that, and so I played uh, myself in those films, and that's all my film career is about.
Yeah.
Nobody else will give me any role in films unless they again make a film in which Tushar Gandhi is going to feature. Maybe then they will consider giving me a
Very nice, sir. Yes, the
role.
unique way, the unique
Sanjay, last question.
last question. Of course, we will love to continue, but the last question that there are the hundreds of foundations, hundreds of trusts, societies, missions, and the initiatives being carried out. But in 1998, what has insisted you, almost after 50 years of rest in peace of Mahatma, that you established Mahatma Gandhi Foundation, and what objective and the activities differently you are thinking or doing towards that, sir?
Uh, Initially, when we started established the Mahatma Gandhi Foundation, it was to uh, conserve and restore a lot of the material dealing with Bapu because we don't have a very good reputation of conserving things, and so a lot of the material associated with Bapu was also alarmingly deteriorated. And so the objective was that IT technology was rapidly developing at that time. So the objective was that if we could not conserve the physical material, at least we would digitize as much as we could and conserve it in the digital format so that in the future, if we could reproduce the material from that digital archive, it would be available to us. And so the foundation was established with that objective. And for some time, we were able to create the digital archive with the help of some Indian American donors. We created one of the biggest digital archives on Bapu. And then, of course, technology outraced us, and so many others took over the job. And after that, we decided that that was not enough work, and Bapu's real work was in the actual world. So we started associating with organizations that work in the rural areas amongst the rural poor, whom Bapu considered to be the most important Indians. And so today we are associating with organizations in the villages and the interiors of India, where they are serving the needs of the population at that time and attempting to make their situation better. So we are working with an organization in Kolhapur where who work with rescuing child laborers and providing them with shelter, nutrition, and education. So we have built a hostel for girls in Kolhapur where over 200 girls will be sheltered and provided with education. And now we are building a complex and a similar hostel for boys is going to be built. And the whole campus of education, of vocational education, will be created so that we will provide them with craft and skill so that they can find sustenance in their life and break out of the trap of poverty. So this is what we are doing today. And fortunately, there are benevolent people in society, so our projects are getting funds whenever required.
Thank you so much, sir, and your simplicity and the way you accommodated the time, and of course the way
Thank
you
you
have
so much.
articulated the narratives. Within few minutes, you have narrated the entire ideology and its relevance to the new generation, to the new world, to the new normal, in the present pandemic. We must honor, we respect, and the great thankful to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaskar.
And now for the audience, we will be continuing the Gandhiji's lyrics, the Vaishnav Janato, Tenere Kahiye, Je Peer Parai Janere. And the musical dedication is scheduled, is organized by Srimati Paullomi Vishwanath Mukherjee. She is a famous TV artist, firstly. She is Kathakar. She is from Lucknow Gharana. In Chanakya serial, we have seen her because not only in music, not only in Kathak, she is master in economics as well. So she is master in economics and political science. And she is continuing her career in arts. And that art career, that Ramananda Sagar serial Krishna, she has played the role of Devaki ji. In 1984, she got the awards from Ministry of India and she continued the scholarship from Government of India. And today on Vaishnav Janato, Tenere Kahiye, Je Peer Parai Janere. This is in Gujarati. Being a Gujarati, the great grandson of Gandhi ji being here, talking Gujarati will be little difficult. But we can say that the who knows the peer, the who knows the pain, he is the actual devotee. जो दूसरों के दुख दर्द को समझता हो, वह वास्तव में एक भगवदीय है, वास्तव में भगवान को या गॉड फियरिंग को मानने वाला है. The true devotee is who knows, who can understand the other's pain. And the artist who is here, again, I request Srimati Paullomi Vishwanath Mukherjee. She is from the studio in Bombay, named Nat Num Studio. So very polite ambience, the very polite artist, and the very polite music. So I request Paullomi ji to be polite and present her dedication.
Namaskar Sahitya ji, and thank you IBPC for giving me this opportunity. This is my small ode to Babu, and I will start Vaishnav Janapur. It has been sung by Ashit Desai and Zimatis.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So nice, so nice, excellent. We don't have words to express our gratitude towards this performance. Paullomi ji, really the Vaishnav, which are known as devotees, knows the pain of others who does good for others without letting any pride or enter his mind. A Vaishnav tolerates and praises the entire world, does not speak ill of others, keeps his promises, actions, thoughts pure. Your mother is blessed indeed. Really, thank you very much
Thank you,
for
sir.
being
Thank
part
you,
of
sir.
us. And will you like to say something of the experience when you prepared for this particular song, which was a selection of our chairman, Mr. Suresh Kumarji, who is present here? It was his selection, and he directed us to select this particular song because it is full of emotions, and the emotions what you portrayed with the musical rhythm, this truly explains the characteristics and the personal traits what you have, the emotions and the skills you have and you have learned in your Guru Shishya Parampara. Uh, Thank you so much. And a few words, then we will be winding up the session today. We are well in time.
Thank you, Tusharji. Thank you, all of you, for giving me this opportunity. I have learned at the feet of a great guru. Sureshji, also thank you so much. Um, and I had done Bapu Ki Amar Kahani, which is a 13-minute piece. And the training that I got from my gurus helped me emote this piece and this song so beautifully. Also, within this pandemic, I think every time I have performed or rehearsed this song, and today brings me a sense of peace and calm from where I am in Mumbai. And I feel that we should spread this more and more because we really need that sthiratva or this sthaitva in us to, uh, you know, generate positivity all around because there is so much happening and so little love and peace all over. So thank you, Sahityaji, for giving me
You
this
are
opportunity and IBPC. And I just hope I have done my best. And next time, if you give me an opportunity, I'll present Bapu Ki Amar Kahani in
you
Rafiqu's voice. That's a very long piece. I do it as a solo piece. So,
excellent, excellent. You are most welcome, Paullomi ji. And I take this opportunity to extend my respect and regards to the ambassador of UAE in from India, our chairman, Mr. Suresh Kumar, the Secretary General, Mr. Dilip Sinha, all the IBPC members, the conveners, the IBPC office, the audience, the guests, and the entire world on this auspicious occasion of remembering Mahatma Gandhi ji and Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. Dhanyavad. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you so much.